Okay, today I'm going to show you about a really neat feature with inside Stratusphere UX, which allows you to get information out of your environment without having to hunt and peck. Stratusphere has information organized in what we call inspectors. So we've got the user inspector, the machine inspector, the login inspector, applications, events, process names, trace routes, and so forth. Well, a real easy way to work the product and to get information from each of these categories and specific information about things that you pointedly want to know about is to use the SpotChecks tab. And under SpotChecks, by clicking Set Thresholds, you're presented with a list of metrics that it's in the current view. And the current view is basically taken by clicking All for the All tag, and then you get all the metrics, or Disk, and then you'll have Disk metrics, or Login, and you'll have Login metrics. And in this case, I want to look up something specific. Let's say I want to look up percents. So specific percents I'm interested in knowing through my organization. So maybe CPU percent, memory percent used, page file percent used, very important metric. Maybe I want to look at disk active percent, but broken out by disk label, or disk space used when I'm approaching a critical disk space that's getting full, but again, not by the disk, maybe by a specific disk label. Maybe I'm interested in knowing where I have disconnected user sessions at. And so if I have a high percentage of a user's time is in the disconnected state, maybe I want to try to reclaim those resources. Maybe I'm interested in knowing my host CPU latency, or my host CPU percent used, or memory percent active, or disk active at a data store level by host. So here's a few percentages that I've picked right now. And at this point, I might also be interested in, let's say, login information or application information. So we'll go apps. And under apps, I have an apps not responding. Okay, maybe I am interested in that. But I'm interested in more than just that. Why don't I see anything more with apps here? Well, maybe I don't have the search term correct. Maybe it's app. Oh, I've got a few more. I've got app not responding, app load time, maybe the processes that are elevated. That's interesting, right? What processes are users running in an admin context state? But maybe I should even have more apps. What about my app CPU or app disk IOPS? At that point, I can click the applications tag on the top of the screen if I can't find something by the search box, and I'm going to get all the things in the app category. It will draw in the background. You can click stop to stop that from drawing. Maybe it's eating up the resources or taking some screen drawing activity in the background, which is distracting you. So clicking stop will stop that from happening. You can click all the rest of the app metrics that you wanted. Maybe CPU used megahertz, let's say the highest process using the most CPU, the one using the most memory, the one using the most disk IOPS, maybe network KBS and IO, maybe what's using a lot of handles, because something that has a lot of handles could have a memory leak. What's using a lot of page faults? What's hitting the disk and page faulting and reading information from the disk, which could be more expensive. Maybe you're interested in knowing more about process latency to a web server or some kind of fully qualified domain name on the internet or in your LAN, or maybe the jitter between a process and a backend host in your LAN. So now I've selected some app metrics. Maybe I want to learn a little bit about some login metrics. So I type in login, and I have login delays. Okay, that's interesting. I want to know the login delay, but isn't there other login information within Stratusphere? So you go ahead and click the login tag, and here's some more login information. And again, I've got some queries running in the background now. I can look at those and consider if any of those are the ones I want. And if I just know from the front screen here, I can just click stop, and I'll just add the ones I want right here. So I might be interested in abnormal events during the login process, how long it takes to discover domain controllers potentially, how long my group policy computer policy runs, how about my user group policy, any group policy extensions or scripts, how long does it take for authorization attempts or to run my network provider section of the login process, maybe how long for my user profile or restoring network or loading my shell, maybe all those. I like all those pieces of information. So I've checked almost all of them. Well, let's see what we're looking at so far. I'm going to click View, Show Enabled. Here's the list of the things that I've selected so far. A little bit from the machine inspector, total CPU of the machine. A little bit from the login inspector, some abnormal events and whatnot. Maybe a little bit from the display inspector, whose remote display session is in a disconnected state. Some from the applications inspector. Now this is per process CPU or per process memory versus per machine. Per process disk IOPS. Per process handle count. maybe latency from these processes to the remote domains. And on the bottom, you see I've gotten some things from the host inspector, what hosts were connected into. And so I could continue on and get some more if there was some more information that I wanted in my spot check. You could go for just a little bit of information, just the top percentages, or you can go for more information and go throughout the product like I have here. For instance, maybe the events section. I want to find out what events are critical events in the event logs for a user's desktop, or any error events for a user's desktop. And again, view, show enabled. These are the ones I've just enabled. These are the ones I've just selected for my bag of tricks, right? I want to go into your remote location and I want to look at what I want to look at. I can now select these and enable these and save them and look at them in my organization, or go to a branch organization and load this spot check up in the branch and look at things in that branch. And so these are the things I want to look at, and I can put in thresholds here. Maybe somebody who's using 20% of their page file, or using 80% of their memory, or maybe their disk space used is approaching 90%, or I can just leave them 0. And then we're going to show you the worst in the category and not use any threshold. So here's the ones I'm interested in at this point. I can click Load Save and type in a title for these things, like My Bag O Tricks. All right, and so these are the things I might be interested in looking at in an organization. And I can type in a description if I want to. If there was a certain amount of thresholds here that I set, and there was a certain help desk that you should call, if any of these thresholds are over a certain threshold, I could punch that information in here, contact help desk extension, whatever. I could leave it blank. And if I want to show this for everybody, for me, I click Enable. If I click Enable, I can see it in the top menu. If I click Publish, it's in the main area of the top menu where everybody who uses SpotChecks can see it. And if I click Public Readable, it's in a hidden area of the menu under my name where other people can go and browse to view the spot check that I've enabled for me, just in case they want to run it or copy it. Okay? In this case, I'm going to click all three. It's going to be enabled for me, it's going to be enabled for everybody to see in the main area, and it's going to be enabled in my little personal folder area visible if somebody wants to copy it. And now I can click Save, and what happens is it tells me that you're creating a new one, so click Save As. So there we go, Save As. I can click Save As, and yes, add this new spot check. And now the spot check is saved to the server, so I can look it up at any time using the top menu at the top of the screen. Then I can grab my bag of tricks and run that spot check. Or I can see just the spot checks published for the general users, or I can see the default ones that come with the product when you get the product shipped new, or I can look at other user spot checks in the organization and copy any of those. So let's go ahead and show you how you take this to another server. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export this out by clicking View and clicking Import Export. And now if I click Export, this is the JSON information, basically outlining what I just selected and enabled. Now I can right-click this and click Copy, and then go create a notepad.txt file, paste it in the notepad, email it to a coworker, email it to myself, go to a customer site, go to another branch location, pull up that notepad text file. And I'm going to show you how to import it into another Stratusphere hub so that you can run it and have it collect the information. So I'm going to pull down another Stratusphere appliance. This is a development appliance. Go ahead and I'm already logged in. I'm going to go ahead and click the SpotChecks tab. And under SpotChecks, I'm going to do the same types of thing you saw me do here. Click Set Thresholds. And then I'm going to click either View or Action. They both have it in the menu. I'm going to click View, Import Export. I'm going to paste in here the JSON text. I'm going to import it. And now here's all the items that I've selected on my first Stratusphere hub. These are the things that I thought were important to me. And so I can now type in thresholds, or just look at the worst in each category, click Load Save, type in a menu title, and a description if I would like to, enable it for me, show it to everybody, and make it available in my personal folder so people can see it. So I could do just that if I didn't want to put it in the public view. And then you could still see it under my menu instead of right in front on the main area. Or I'll just do it in all three in this case. And so my description may be call extension, 1, 2, 3, if there was some specific extension that these things should be escalated to. And now I click Save As because it's a new spot check. This spot check is being saved to the server. I can also choose a group that this should run against. If I knew a specific machine group or a specific user group, pick that machine or user group and then save the spot check again, and it will run against that group by default. And so now if I look at the top of the screen and I have my bag of tricks, which is in my area, and it's also published in the main area, so somebody else sees their things on there and then they see the main area. And then there's also ability, if you're not under the user that published it, to click a plus at the bottom of the screen and browse other user spot checks and then run them or copy them if they've made them publicly available. So in this case, we'll go ahead and click My Bag of Tricks under my personal area. And there's 36 queries that are running. And while this is running, I can be going to a different spot in the inspector and doing other things, looking up something else, or I could wait for this to run and view it as it comes up on the screen over here. And anything that's above the thresholds that I set, or in this case, anything that's above 0 up to 25, I can do top 1, top 5, top 10, top 100. I'm going to get those listed back here on the front of the screen. At this point, I can browse through these entries, hover and find out a little information on the metric, and I can also click one of the users or one of the machines and pull up what we call a user 360 or a machine 360 and learn all about that user or machine that might have violated the threshold on one of the spot checks that I set up. I can also click the pop out and go to the inspector, which is where this information is stored, and then drill down or change resolutions, look at the data by hour, or in this case, if I wanted to know what kind of applications created this CPU, again, the user 360, or I can pop out to the inspector. This brings me to the user inspector. I can drill down on Justin, look at it by hour, but I can also easily click the CPU used percentage and find out for Justin on this machine what created this 2.6% workload. And if I click pop out to applications inspector, this will be the applications that created that 2% workload. So that's your workflow. You start from the overall spot check, select what you would like, save that as your bag of tricks, import that into another hub, run it, find a focus spot of information, pop out to the inspector, click the CPU, memory, disk network, and figure out what created the load. Very simple, very easy way to go through all the different spots within Stratusphere UX and find out information that's relevant to you throughout the series of inspectors here, but pull it all back to one screen, either many metrics or just the couple metrics that serve your purpose, and then be able to do that recurringly against a group or a specific type of machines. And that's one way not to have to hunt and peck for something, but to bubble up what the important things are directly to you from the SpotCheck tab. That completes this demonstration. Thank you very much.